Well, it is a pleasure and thank you for joining us on this mental health topical discussion. Welcome to Beyond the Surface. This is where we discuss critical matters that relate to issues of mental health in this country. This time round, we discuss mental health issues in the field of work. And bringing me closer to this discussion is a person who is in charge of, who is the team leader, the CEO of the Private Sector Foundation, that is none other than Dr. Stephen Asiimwe. We'll be discussing issues of mental health, and we'll also be getting personal to find out how he is able to manage mental health issues both at the private sector, but also juggling many other responsibilities. My name is Fred Makubia, and thank you very much, Dr. Stephen Asiimwe, for speaking to us.
Okay, so hello viewers. My name is Stephen Asiimwe. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Private Sector Foundation, popularly known as PSFU. It's a pleasure to be on your telecast.
So interestingly, I want to pick your view. What is your perspective on mental health issues from the Private Sector Foundation?
Mental health issues, as far as I'm concerned, has to do with the well-being of someone's body, spirit, and soul, but at the level where someone has a balanced demeanor, so to speak, and mental wellness, or the lack of it, has become a very popular issue. Many years ago, I think it wasn't a big issue because either we had not diagnosed it, or perhaps society had not come into the full understanding of the fact that someone needs to be in a state of peace, of tranquility, and that from a socio-cultural perspective, there was a sense in which we thought back in the day, I'm in my late 50s now, mental disability or illness was associated with the madness. And the only place that we knew, at least from the perspective of public and how to deal with it, was a place called Butavika. And Butavika even became a nomenclature to mean madness or loss of wires, as they say on the street. But mental illness has actually become much deeper and more subtle, and a very intriguing prospect and perspective. We are seeing an increase in stress, in mental disorder, in lack of certain mental or well-being of human beings that is triggered by many issues. Work-related issues, too much work, economic challenges, financial challenges, marital challenges, family challenges, food-related, nutritional, alcohol, substance abuse, but also, I think in many ways than one, personal relationships, office relationships. And therefore, we have now, from a scientific perspective, to realize that the office or the workspace, so to speak, must have enablers that create a sense of welfare satisfaction, employee satisfaction. Our human resource environment is now being tailored towards ensuring that the worker, and I'm a worker at my place of engagement, lives in a place where they are well facilitated, well enabled, satisfied to perform to their best of their abilities. The lack of which triggers some of those mental disorders and challenges that then create an unfavorable working experience. So therefore, as far as I'm concerned, I think that mental illness is an issue that needs to be incorporated in the workspace, in the business environment, in client relationships, and by extension, where I sit we deal with private sector players who then impact the economy. So if you look at the enabling laws like the labor laws, the Employer Act, the Trade Union Act, the entire workspace engagement is really critical that we create that enabling environment that creates that satisfaction that then also creates that element that brings about full capacity of the person at work.
Okay. As we talk now, mental health issues, I could mention suicide is on the rise. I want to pick your view on what could be the reasons behind the increased cases of mental health issues, not just in the business community, but everywhere.
I think it's, of course, suicide on the scale. If you had the scale of mental illness, you have peace and tranquility on the left part of the scale. Suicide is the tipping point, so to speak, of the highest level of mental disability, in my definition. But I think it is borne by many factors. My personal view is that when we are born in an environment. In my view, the home is the first place where mental wellness or the lack of it starts. If you are born in a loving family, a caring family, a nurturing family, we have sayings like charity begins at home. When I was young, my parents taught me some principles. Principles like, when a service is offered, you say thank you. If you make a mistake, you say sorry. And if you need courtesy, you say please. So they taught us things like teaspoon, thank you, sorry, and please. Those are must-dos. We were also told that we learned some simple principles. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So sleep time is a principle, and it is a cause of health. The less sleep you have, the less healthy you are. I feel it myself. Occasionally I sleep less hours, and I feel the impact of having it. But also waking up early gives me satisfaction. I am usually the first person in my office. I am here before 6 o'clock. And it gives me time to prepare. I pray, I read my Bible, I pray, I plan, and my day starts very well. So I have a very good foundation to start the day. So we learned principles like thank you, sorry, and please. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. That's mental wellness. But we also learned principles like do the right thing, in the right place, at the right time. Those are simple, basic principles we were taught as children. And I can tell you those principles have taken me very far and have been the cause of what I am today. So the family is the first place of call. When you go beyond the family, you have the society, the culture, the heritage, the people you live with, your neighbors. So if you have pockets of very well managed homes where there's love and care, where you eat on time, you don't junk, you eat regular, you are taught to love others, to be empathetic to people. We were taught very early in childhood that if you ever find an old person riding a bike on a hill, go and take the guy up to the top and let him ride. If you're ever on a bus and there's an old person or someone with a child, leave the seat, let the people sit. We were taught very, very early to say good morning, sir. Every morning we woke up, we went and greeted our parents. And we were told very early to say good night to our parents. And we were taught very early, basics. Brush after meals and keep yourself healthy, keep yourself clean, work, don't litter. Those are simple societal manners that prepare you for the future. Now, the lack of those kind of principles is in many ways what has caused this imbalance. So one is the family, two is society, three is school. What schools did you go to? I remember in the day, teachers used to cane us, and those things would bring trauma. There were teachers whom you saw, and they were traumatic. So we then associated certain teachers with certain subjects. I, for one, we had a very tough mathematics teacher, and he made me hate mathematics. And for a long time, it took me long to love the mathematics. I loved it later, but I was traumatic. So in life, we have what we call impressions. So you have a first impression, a last impression, and a lasting impression. So I developed incidences that triggered certain thoughts. So, for example, people are traumatized by water, people are traumatized by fire. If you ever had a burglar coming into your home at night, so those triggers, if those effects of some of those traumatic experiences, war, orphanage, people losing their, so those things trigger certain negative pulses in the brain that eventually then make you traumatized by those incidents, and those incidents actually lead people to, if they are not well managed. So to say, so one is your family, two is society, three is school or education for that matter. The other one, of course, is work. When you get into the business environment, how are your relationships? How do you manage stress? How do you manage anxiety? Patience. They say patience pays. And then, of course, societal challenges. Some people take off very quickly, others don't. And that can cause a sense of insecurity. For me, I think insecurity is a big cause. So if I don't have a car and my friends are driving, it can trigger certain imbalance in your thoughts and your patience process. So on a scale, depending on your background and maybe your experiences or your ability to deal with challenges, if there's an imbalance or a dysfunctional process of managing experiences, constant anxiety and stress leads to depression. And if depression is not well managed, then people start getting thoughts of, giving up on life and, getting rid of. They don't see any reason why they should live on earth and continue to suffer. Yeah, so that emotional excess of anxiety and stress leads to depression, and depression leads to suicide. And I think we are seeing a lot of that. And then it's happening a lot in men, because men don't want to feel vulnerable. They rather keep the things, they internalize problems. And that lack of, getting out of your skin, so to speak, and going to ask for help is what leads many young, mostly young people, to commit suicide, which is really the last stage. On the scale of this side is that suicidal element.
You personally hold an office full of responsibilities, challenges, opportunities. I want to find out from you how you are able to manage this very critical and significant position in the private sector foundation.
That's a very good question, and a tough one at that. So I think that the position I hold is one of huge responsibility. PSFU is the apex body of over 330 business associations and corporate companies. We are a member-based organization representing 13 sectors, and our members form the biggest part of the private sector, and by extension, the economy. So we literally run a government here. For that to be successful, we run an institution called the PSFU Secretariat, which has over 140 members to date. I sit and supervise and superintend of a pyramid. So you have staff at the bottom at different levels, and I lead the executive committee, top management. I'm responsible for 4 strategic issues. One, I lead a group of people. I also manage resources of the PSFU. I'm the accounting officer of the PSFU. I have to manage my time and allocate it effectively for everybody. But I'm also responsible for ensuring that the private sector gets as many opportunities as possible. So I have people, which is staff. I have time, which is essentially managing all these resources. I also have resources, money, that is allocated to these people, and then managing opportunities, and then managing stakeholders, because I'm responsible to the membership and the public, which is a consumer. But my institution also is policy and advocacy. So we are responsible for ensuring that the private sector of Uganda do business and conduct it in a sustainable manner, in a conducive manner, but also profitable. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of responsibility, but I only have 24 hours, Mr. Moderator. My 24 hours are shared in 3 batches. I need time for sleep, I need time to work, but I also need time for myself and my family. So it's a balancing act. I have to juggle many balls. I need to travel. I come from a family of siblings. I have a mother. I am part of a Christian fellowship. I have friends. And I also have to ensure that I give the best to my institution. So it's a lot of work. And I can tell you it's only by the grace of God that we do it. Yes.
I have pretty done my research very well. You lead a team of very sensitive people, well-educated people, people who are doing well financially. I must say it is not very easy, in my view, to lead such a team. But now that you've sustained up to this date, I want to find out how you are managing such a very critical team here at the Private Sector Foundation.
That's a good question. We work under a very strict regime. We have 21 policies and manuals in the institution: financial, procurement, HR, IT manual. We have audits. We have people performance and culture. We have a governance structure. I report to a board. And obviously, you have to really allocate time for everybody. But the way we do it is, the way I do it is that I have a team. I have a group of 3 people who work under me, whom we call a C-suite. I have a chief membership officer, a chief program and projects officer, and a chief operating officer. I delegate a lot of work. I have directorates below, whose work it is to implement. So I do the strategic. But I also have an open door policy where I get feedback from people. I don't make myself unapproachable. So myself, from the context that I have been operating, I am the first person in office. I'm here by 6 o'clock in the morning. My official work reporting hours are 8 o'clock. So I have 2 hours before the official clock begins. So I use that time to clear my desk, to check my mails. And because of the responsibilities that I have to the public, most times I'm out by 8:30 or 9 o'clock or 10. So give and take, I have a calendar, a schedule of events, but I also try and give space and time for people to approach me. I manage different challenges. I have to make sure that the institution is financially stable, that the governance and the management systems are okay, that the people and learning elements are there. We have town halls, which is your traditional staff meeting. Actually, we have one on Friday. And we are going to talk about mental illness because it's been a subject. So where we have challenges, I also have a team that would meet to manage staff affairs. I have a management human resource team. I have a finance team. I have a procurement team. So basically, it is empowering my people, delegating them, but ensuring that they also report. So it's a very interesting, it's a busy day, but I also have a reward system. I have KPIs. I measure myself against certain KPIs to which I report to the board. So it's a very interesting balance. It's tough. It's not easy. And obviously, it calls for a lot of being able to be flexible, being attentive, listening more than you talk, but also as much as possible empowering and delegating so that you offset the burden. You don't be a Kamalaviona. Basically, you empower these people because these are the guys who are going to take over us. It's called succession planning. So any one of my teammates at the top has capacity to become CEO.
Well, decision making is one of those easy things, but personally, I can authoritatively say it may not be as easy as most people think. Now, the decisions you make at your level impacts the institution, but also those that subscribe to the institution. I want to find out what are some of those key things that you consider at your level in making decisions, not just for the institution, but even to the members that subscribe to the institution.
You know, we have one motto at PSFU. It's called business growth is our business. So at PSFU, we do what is called evidence-based research to inform policy. So before we do anything strategic, we first research on it, we study it, and ensure that we interrogate the consequences of a certain decision based on what we have has become an outcome of the study. So I do a lot of consultation. I don't make decisions by impulse, but sometimes some decisions need to be quick and prompt. So you have to make a quick and prompt decision. So it is consultative, it is research-based. I have to use evidence before I make a decision. But also it is quick and fast. You have to make quick decisions. Because in business, 1 second makes a difference. You've been on the bypass. If you miss the turn towards where you are supposed to go, getting back to that place can take you half a day. So that's also in the business world. You have to make decisions quickly. Otherwise, any late decision making can lead to the difference in a minute on a trading floor at the stock exchange can make or break you. Okay. But also having the right people, having the right capacity, and being able to give people confidence and security of decision making is critical. So I make decisions on a daily basis, but I also consult. But also haste can be dangerous. If you make decisions in haste without integrating and interrogating the environment, it can be a bit of a trick. So I depend on many pulses, but I also have a structure within which I derive my powers. I don't make decisions authoritarianly. I have to create a sense of, I pick views that are divergent. But we also live in a business world that is altruistic, that is selfish sometimes, and the demands of the private sector sometimes are very selfish. We deal with different forces of people. Willing buyer, willing seller, they are never, everybody is profit motivated. People go for the bottom line. So you really have to make decisions based on what you think is best, in the best interests. We work with government, we also work with the private sector. So that harmonization is called dialogue, and that's why we try to bring people to a table and have a meaningful discussion. But we also benchmark, we also study what other countries have done, and many countries also study from us. So we don't operate in a vacuum. We study, we learn, we unlearn, but basically I make decisions based on the need to create an enabling environment for the private sector, for whom I'm responsible.
I have pretty done my research that most people at your level, they may die because of other factors, but one of those factors that causes them either to die physically or die mentally or die emotionally is stress and anxiety, name it. So amidst your busy schedules and responsibility, I want to find out what tactics do you use to manage issues like stress, work, and pressure?
I must say I've been a victim. There is no CEO, chief executive, who does not superintend over stress. During COVID, we had a lot of challenges. Private sector businesses were down, jobs were lost, money was lost, profits were down, banks came on institutions that were paying, landlords locked up tenants were not earning money. It has been our toughest time ever as a business organization, managing businesses. In fact, the disease was so rampant that it hit home. I replaced an executive director, the late Gideon Badagawa, God bless his soul, because he died of COVID. That single incident alone affected this institution. We are still coming to grips with it. In fact, a week from now, we shall be remembering the 3rd anniversary of his passing. To this day, that scar is still present. So it's a normal thing. It's inevitable. The issue is, how do you get out of it? Depression, stress, anxiety are normal. So one, I go back to the principles that we learned when we were young. Sleep, exercise. Again, one of the things we learned when we were young was work without play makes Jack a dull boy. But play without work makes Jack a mere toy. So it's a work-life balance. You must work and you must have leisure and time off. So I try to make my weekends as fulfilling as possible. I have a small farm out of town, so I go farming with my family. Or most times you have weddings and social events, so you go and have those social meetings. I go for fellowships. I go for an evening coffee with my friends. I take out someone. I have 2 young men, 2 sons, so we like to watch movies. So we always save for that day when I go out for the blockbuster. And we go for a coffee before, and then we have a coffee after. My wife is not into movies, but she's more of a church person, so we have to go for fellowship together and all that kind of thing. So you must learn to socialize. I've also joined the golf club. I'm a member of Kampala Club. I play badminton. I swim. So that's the way I distress. The other way I also do it is that I am a no-office person after 2 o'clock, because I've done my 8 hours. We have a nice compound at PSFU, so I sit out there and catch up with a lot of the people. So that way I distress. And I also love laughter. I like to laugh, and I laugh from the heart. So occasionally I will go out for a comedy night and catch up. But one of the things we've done at PSFU is that we have now created a wellness unit and exercise. We have started a wellness campaign at PSFU. So every Tuesday we have an expert who comes in. We go out and do exercise. We do yoga, we do aerobics, we run, we do all sorts of physical exercise. And afterwards, we go into a wellness talk. Last night, we do it every Tuesday. We were talking about depression and stress relievers. And it was very exciting to hear people sharing their personal stories. And people come out and talk. And then we embrace them. Then we have a coffee. We started it as a 1-hour event. It has now become 4 to 5. We intend to have a much bigger and protracted discussion. And many people are coming in and enjoying. Every year, we have a retreat with my staff. I take them to a place of the entire staff of 100 and so people. We've done 2 so far. We've been to Kalangala, where we share one strategic issue. And then we have team building exercises, we do bonding, we do a boat ride, and we're there for 3 days, and we have fun, we play music. That way we are able to break barriers, break the ice, and to ensure that we have unity and purpose. Every 3 months, we have a big town hall, we do a barbecue, and we really make it a fun time. We are hoping to make it at least every week, where I intend to start a CEO's cocktail once a week so that people can meet, talk, catch up. But also now we are beginning to have seminars per department. And so that way we are breaking some of those barriers. It also gives me time to bond with my staff and to know what's going on in their lives. We celebrate birthdays. We also celebrate people's achievements. We give gifts, we give parties, we give hampers, so that we now create an enabling environment. We want a place that has good staff welfare and employee engagement, so that we create that place where you are dying to go to the office and not feeling like, when am I going home? You have to create that enabling environment.
You seem to be suggesting that issues of conflict at PSFU is not an issue, but I want to deviate with you. From my research, I personally know that conflict is something very inevitable. If that is the case, I want to find out how you are able to manage conflicts both at the top management level and even conflict at all the other levels.
Conflicts are inevitable. Conflicts is like oxygen. You have to breathe in and breathe out. You inhale and exhale. It's part and parcel of our life. There will always be times when people step on each other's toes, or where decision-making impinges on the freedoms or excesses of the recipient or the giver, but also failure to meet targets, qualitative work, quantitative work, or the lack of it can be challenged. So those are inevitable. And so we have put in place a conflict resolution mechanism. We put in KPI scores, so we score. We do appraisals on performance. But we also now have an arbitration point of view. So if 2 top leaders are conflicted, then they come to me. If it is I who is conflicted with any one of them, then we have to seek a higher power, which is the board. And if it is something beyond the board's capacity, we have something called an advisory council, which is a council of elders. So there are mechanisms which can be looked in terms of conflict resolution and management of some of those challenges. Now, that is manageable and that is inevitable. So we have all these challenges every day, but we have within our means mechanisms to manage those challenges.
Dr. Stephen Asiimwe, if there is anything that you think is worth positive for public consumption, you have the opportunity to bring that forth as we plan to wind up this discussion.
Yes, of course. I think that the modern day working environment and society has a lot of challenges. So one of the things, for example, is that a lot of people manage stress through stress relievers. So it could be drugs, medication, it could be substance abuse, it could be alcohol, or it could be that, because like I said earlier, society didn't have a mechanism of managing. So you had singers and kojas, some sort of cushion, or let's say shock absorbing mechanisms, which were traditional. But many of them were not scientific. They were not very well tested scientifically. So like I said, anything that went towards mental stress or wellness, people were referred to Tabika. But today, we have now institutions that have provided for mental wellness, which is you need therapy, you need counseling, and you need a place where you can go and treat. Again, we always think that treatment is physical, malaria, typhoid, cancer, and all those things, physical ailment. But to a great extent, as science is showing, and you might know better than me, is that mental illness is as bad. It is invisible. It is software, which then translates into hardware. You start feeling sick, and eventually you either die or get a stroke, etc., etc. So my view is that we need to have a concerted effort in our human resource, human capital engagement to find mechanisms through which staff can get therapy. And now we have done it at PSFU. It is working very well. We have hired within our health and wellness insurance. We have now provided for mental wellness support through therapy, through counseling, through that kind of thing. Yes.
Yes, you are private sector, but you don't work alone. You operate with government. Is there anything you think government must do in relation to matters of mental health, not just in the business world, but to Uganda as a country?
Yes, and I appeal to government to start considering mechanisms through which people get support. So in PSFU, we have something called staff welfare programs and employee satisfaction. So we compare, we have KPIs on that. So staff engagement is one of them, cultural transformation, creating a culture within an institution, and then also creating a mechanism through which people can depress. So you compress and then you depress. It's like breathing. You inhale oxygen and you exhale carbon dioxide. So a lot of times we intake challenges and stress, and eventually becomes depression, and then of course the final position is when people have to take their lives. But is there a way of depressing that? Is there a way of getting rid? Is there a way of finding an exhaling mechanism of how you can get help? And I think government, this is a very big priority. Like how you have malaria programs, you have campaigns on inoculation and all these vaccination campaigns. I think mental illness now is one of the biggest killers, and it is killing the top. It is killing men. It is killing people with PhDs and master's programs, because it's very, very much a function of the brain. But also, we should not only treat this. We need to treat the cause and not the symptoms of the disease. And those causes are issues to do with the substance abuse, the enabling environment, laws. You see how people drive on the roads. You are driving and then people are overtaking you. Nobody is. So there's road rage. Trauma centers are not being managed very well. So government now needs to take it as a very big priority. And I think under the UN it's now an SDG. And I think that's something that the government needs to look at.
You have the opportunity, Dr. Stephen Asiimwe, to make your final remarks.
I think my remarks are in the context that mental wellness is a very big challenge. And I think every employer, every institution, every family, every societal leader needs to manage this issue. And I think we should make it a priority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stephen Asiimwe, for finding time amidst your very busy schedules. He is the Chief Executive Officer here at the Private Sector Foundation Uganda, and for sure I know this discussion, if it has not caused impact to you, it has caused impact to myself. But for sure I know mental health issues are some of the issues we must prioritize as a country. And buying from the three principles, I think you and I must join our hands together to fight and deal with mental health issues in this country. This has been Beyond the Surface. My name is Fred Makubuya.